Take it away, Avanish.
Thank you, Amar. Pleasure. This act is very special for me because for two reasons. One, I have to click it. So first off, in the late 90s, NASCOM was a client of mine at McKinsey, and we did the first study around Vision 2020. And we were off by a lot. It's been phenomenal. What you guys have done, and the NASCOM leadership and others, the last 17, 18 years is phenomenal. So just great to see from a personal perspective how far we've come. Secondly, as Amar mentioned, we've known each other for a long time, and we started working together also when I was at McKinsey in doing events exactly like this in Silicon Valley. And frankly, this doesn't look a lot like those days, right? A lot of great entrepreneurs, great ideas, just a lot of innovation. So personally, it's just very rewarding to see this coming to India. So the topic really, let me just recap that. Has Saas reached the tipping point? The answer is yes, but I'll talk about that for 20 minutes. And it's an American company. A lot of American lawyers, so I have to put that up there. You can memorize that. So who is Salesforce? I'll spend just a couple minutes talking about what Salesforce does. How many of you actually know Salesforce? Salesforce.com. Okay, the vast majority, which is great. Salesforce is the #1 company in sales, service, and marketing applications, according to most analysts. It's also leader in cloud computing, and has been named by Forbes magazine as the most innovative company in the world for the last 3 years. So with that as context, and frankly, with that as building some of our trust, let's talk about a question that was posed, which is, has software as a service reached a tipping point? Our answer is yes, but software as a service really is a combination of a few different things. And we think that this combination of changes and evolution is really a revolution. And that is what's happening. So first off, there's a social revolution. Social networking surpassed email in terms of number of users a couple of years ago. And that blue keeps going bigger and bigger. This is from about a year ago. The latest data might say it's close to 2.5 billion social users. That is phenomenal. 1/3 of the population is social. You just heard Charles Phillips talk about social, right? We think that is a fundamental transformation in how users will engage. And anyone who's thinking about applications needs to think about that. Secondly, mobile, right? Again, you see some common themes here. For us, for Salesforce, for our partner ecosystem, which is what I run, it is all about mobile. It is mobile first, it's mobile best. 1.8 billion devices, right? It is gigantic. There are 1.2 billion touch devices shipped last year alone, right? And that changes the expectation. That changes the user engagement. And for us, that's a big part of what is transforming software as a service, right? And cloud. And then third, networks of devices, right? I think there were sessions earlier today talking about cars, how cars are connected. The speaker earlier, Dr. Chetty, talked about hospitals and hospitals' devices being connected. But look at these numbers. 1.8 billion network computers, but 3.5 billion with a B network products. We have Coca-Cola as a customer for Salesforce. Coca-Cola's vending machines are now connected to the internet. Toyota, its cars are connected to the internet, right? And you keep on going on and on and on. All these devices now are nodes on the internet. What does that mean? That means they're trading data. That means they're gathering insights. And that to us is really what defines the transformation that cloud and SaaS bring to the table, right? So to answer the question, the tipping point has been arrived when you've got customers like Coca-Cola, GE, Ford, and on and on and on, that are part of this ecosystem, that are looking at the cloud as a way to transform their customer experience. That means it's here, and it's about growth. And again, what the Charles was saying earlier, now it's about the next set of revolution around that. So what is moving to the cloud, and whether it's applications, platforms, social computing, or databases, we think this is here. And you see some logos of the companies that we think are defining that, along with Salesforce, right? These are the change makers. These are the next generation of technology leaders. But traditional players are going to get left behind, right? And we see this happen. We see companies who have not adopt this mindset of going from the more forms-based traditional workflow, Windows UI type environment. There's a lot of those out there for certain applications. That's what they've been built on. But they're going to get left behind. The customer expectation is moving to the cloud. It's about Amazon. It's about serving up some of our technologies, Force.com, Heroku. It's about Azure from Microsoft. It's about Google. These are the new ways to develop. These are the new ways to distribute. The new ways to engage. Right? So we think this is here. And those who are not thinking this way will face some challenges. And now, this is a bit of an eye chart, but with my McKinsey background, we have to put a chart like this up there, which is, look at this growth. Look at, this is Gartner from about a year ago, 26% growth year over year in the enterprise apps category. And if you look at some of the subcategories, HR, supply chain, demand management, which really is everything customer facing, back office, finance, accounting, and administration, ops, they're huge. This is $40 billion, okay, growing at 26%. Traditional enterprise software, growing at 3, 4, 5%, right? So now you're looking at where the opportunity is. It's an opportunity for you guys. It's certainly an opportunity for us as Salesforce, already a $4 billion company. But there's tons of areas where you can innovate. You can innovate for the local market. You can innovate for the regional market. You can innovate for the global market, right? And that's the kind of opportunity that's out there, right? So I see a lot of applications around consumer and consumer applications. Fantastic. That's an easy way to start. But the value, this is where the value is. And this is where the expectation is for change to happen, right? Tremendous amount of innovation that will change the business processes, that will change how customers communicate, that will change how companies communicate, how you engage with partners, distributors, etc. So this is what drives us. This is what drives us from a Salesforce perspective is we want an ecosystem of partners that can address these kind of problems. We come in with domain expertise, we come in with an understanding of a particular business problem, and say, yeah, we can go solve this. We can do this. And we will help enable that. That's the business I run. Okay? So with all that as background, what does that mean? Right? So we said, great opportunity for an investor to look at that and say, yeah, this is where the future is. Now, what do you need to do? If you're a technologist, if you're an app developer, what do you do? So my business, we have about 1,400 partners worldwide, and they today have about 2,000 apps that they've built over the last few years. So we actually did a bit of a research project and tried to identify what are some of the key attributes of the next generation of successful software. And we come up with 6 of these attributes. Normally I'd go in a bit more detail, but it's because of time. I'll show them somewhat quickly. But these are the 6 attributes that we think are critical. And how do you win the hearts of your users? Charles called it the beautiful application. Well, we encompass a lot of those things in this, which is, first and foremost, collaboration. Are you really bringing information to people in ways that have not been done before? You expose data, right? Just the example Charles gave, from operations to production to manufacturing. You make it work in a way that it's easy to get, easy to consume, and easy to find, right? Secondly, a social user experience. You've obviously heard this theme. You've seen the data. You've seen examples from Info, who also is a partner of ours. And you look at that and say, that is what the expectation is. The next generation of people who are coming into the workforce expect it to be that way. They expect it to show up as a feed. They expect notifications. They expect alerts, right? Your email inbox is going to languish. But if something is showing up in your feed, you'll react to it. You'll read it. You'll act on it, right? So that's important. Excuse me. Third, network effects. That's a fundamental premise of things like Facebook, things like Twitter. The value of the overall network increases with every additional incremental user. The same applies to business apps. If I only have 5 users in my organization that use something, may not be that interesting. If I have 100, 1,000, 10,000, depending on the size of my company, across my company, or outside my company, with my partners, with my customers, my distributors, now you're creating network effects. And the value of every incremental user increases the value of the network. Therefore, there's a lot more usage, a lot more data sharing, information sharing, etc. So we think that's a fundamental tenet. Fourth, interoperability. Apps don't live in silos, right? You have to work with other apps. You have to work with other apps inside the organization. You have to work with other apps outside the organization. You have to work with apps that are quote-unquote legacy on-premise or in other clouds. How do you think about that? How do you design for integration? How do you design for API access, right? That's something that you have to think up front, not in hindsight. And again, customers expect that. And if you don't have that in your apps, chance of success get limited. Fifth, mobility, right? You heard this also from Charles. You heard it from Dr. Chetty. The iPhone, iPad, Android revolution, right, happened in the last 3 to 4 years. I joined Salesforce 4.5 years ago. We were given BlackBerries. Now we standardize on iPads and iPhones. Every employee in the company gets one, right? Even within our company. Our customers expect that. Our partners expect that. And we need access to that information, easy to use, easy to access, easy to react to, easy to share. So that is another design principle that says mobility is part of your thinking should be part of your thinking from the get-go, not I'm going to think about that later, right? And finally, probably the most important one, which is innovate, right? We talk about Salesforce as a leader in innovation, not because our technology is cool, but because we're really thinking about what is happening in the world of our customers. What is changing? How is their engagement changing with their own customers? How is it changing with their partners, with their employees? And innovating on that business process, innovating on that engagement, on that communication, creates the next generation of winners, right? And therefore, we urge our partners to always think about, not just thinking about technology first, but really thinking about what is the business process you're solving? What is the problem you're solving? Who are you solving it for? It's a basic principle, but it's amazing how often people forget that. And innovation really drives, look at what Apple has done as part of innovation, right? That's really what we have the opportunity to do in terms of business apps. So those are 6 tenets. I'm sure there's more, but as we did our research, we felt that these were the 6 things that if you think about will create the better, more compelling, more winning apps. Okay? Great. So now you've built your app. Now what do? This actually is a tough part. This is, candidly, and I know there's a lot of technology and CTOs in the room. I'm an engineer, so I can say this. The technology part is easy. Hard part is how do you market? How do you sell? How do you get customers to buy? How do you make them part of their money, right? So now let's talk about that. First and foremost, it's a basic principle, but this has changed a lot with the advent of cloud, SaaS, hosting, etc. Test the market. It's a lot easier to do this now than it ever was before, right? So do soft launches, do free pilots, do cycles in which you act on customer feedback, right? There's a lot more ways of doing this now than there ever were before, right? At Salesforce, for example, we have a whole infrastructure for free pilots. Our apps are 30 days free. Our partners' apps will give them the infrastructure to do that as well. And that's part of what we think is a necessity. It's what the customers expect, and we're just engaged, right? So test the market. Secondly, again, some of the basic principles, but people sometimes forget this. Don't keep it a secret. Just because you built it doesn't mean they will come, right? So invest in identifying who the influencers are for your industry. Who are the bloggers? Who are the reporters, right? You have to find the time to do that. In the U.S., TechCrunch is a publication that if you get an article published in TechCrunch, your volume is going to spike 10, 20, 100x because people read that. They're the ones who are making the names of the next generation of companies, right? Encourage reviews. Be open. This is a very different environment now. It's not just about analysts. It's also about user reviews. It's user feedback. If you go to the Salesforce.com App Exchange, which is where our partners' apps are exposed, there's reviews. Partners have hundreds of reviews. They may not all be positive, but then you take that feedback and you start reacting to that, right? So the infrastructure exists, the capabilities exist to do that individually. You can do surveys, you can do all kinds of different things. You can do it in-app, you can do it post-fact, but do it. You've got to get that feedback. Okay? Third, on the marketing front, you have to invest in your brand, right? It is Again, marketing is not easy. MR is a marketing expert, and it takes a lot. You have to think about it. You have to hire the right set of consultants, contractors, executives to do that. But you have to do it, right? What is your value proposition? Who it is for? Do you really solve their pain? What the benefit they're going to accrue from that, right? Those are important things. Again, the basic concept, sometimes people forget or assume it's going to happen. Creating demos. Every partner, we urge them to build a video with a demo. 2 minutes, no more. That's how much attention people will first give. You've got to be able to find that easily, run it, and understand what it means for you. And then content. You just have to have killer content. Takes a while, takes investment, but you've got to invest the time doing that. Okay? So these are principles we've learned by working with, again, hundreds of partners over time, and we see this as key to establishing a presence. Number 4, deliver a world-class experience. We talk about the beauty of the app, but that's after they may have already purchased. They need to engage with you as a supplier, as a vendor, as a technology partner, even well before that, right? They come to your website. They come to your blog. They see an ad of yours on Google. Connect with them. Engage, right? And that requires thinking that through, right? You look at the design quality of websites today, they're phenomenal, right? They're light. They're easy to navigate. They're not full of a lot of text and tons of attachments and so on. You got to think about that, right? And depending on who your target audience is, you got to think about languages. You got to think about how they will react to what they see first. And that first touch is super critical, right? If they find you on a blog mention and it links to a page, that page better be crisp. That page better be just catchy, right? And they need to have a call to action. They need to have an ability to identify what the next steps are, how to register, etc. Easy, right? It's got to be easy. We talked about trials earlier, but that, again, frictionless trials. The traditional enterprise software world, it proves of concept. Put 3, 4, 5 people on site for weeks or months to help navigate a trial. To navigate a POC. Not anymore. Even in the large enterprise, they may want a one-touch or a zero-touch trial. That they go to a website, they hit try me now or get it now, and they start using it. If they like it, then they'll come back and say, yeah, now I want to buy. So you got to think about that. You got to provision that. You got to be able to make sure it's a good experience for them as well. And over communication. Again, I said earlier, only half jokingly, you've got to have the resources. You've got to have the marketing folks, the sales folks, pre-sales folks who know how to engage, who know how to communicate, who nurture a trial. They don't just say, hey, are you going to buy? They say, by the way, here's all these other things you can do. You've done this, this, and this. There's 5 more things you can do. It's a different way of thinking about an engagement model. Okay? And then finally, you're not alone, right? Leverage, find mentors, right? I think there's some of that is going to happen here, right? Go with people who've done it before. All of us have scars from things we didn't do well. That's almost as important, if not more important, than figure out how to do well, right? Don't make our mistakes. Make new mistakes. So find mentors. Find people who can help you build your business, right? And they could be investors, they could be friends, they could be people you network with on LinkedIn, but find them. Trust me, most people are more than happy to help and advise and so on. At then events like this, there's tons of them, right? You find examples, you find peers who are suffering with some problems. I was listening to some conversations outside today, and you could see people sharing ideas about how to optimize their SEO. It's awesome, right? And join these kind of communities, right? Again, a lot of it is online now, and it's a lot easier to make that happen. With that, with 5 seconds to go, thank you very much.
Great presentation, Avanish, for this crowd here of entrepreneurs. So first question is the ecosystem. Tell us a little bit about the Salesforce ecosystem. How do you work with potential partners? How do you help them onboard? How do you train them, educate them? How do you help them go to market? Do you have a whole set of programs?
Absolutely. We have another hour, right?
Sure.
So ecosystem obviously is one of the themes of the day and themes of the conference. And so our ecosystem is about 1,500 or so, 1,500 partners. It's been built over the last 6-7 years. And they come in a few different categories. They come in partners that complement our core CRM application, which is a big part of our business. But they also come in the form of partners who built their solutions completely on our platform. And they have nothing to do with CRM. So why is that our ecosystem? For us, it's a core part of our strategy, which is Salesforce is a leader in CRM, but we also want to be part of that other set of apps. We want our partners to bring their domain expertise, vertical, horizontal, micro-vertical actually as well, to use the same term as Charles did, and bring that to the table and help augment how customers transform their engagement and transform their business into the cloud. So we want to be that underlying platform layer and help accelerate how partners come to market. So what does that mean for the partners? We've actually put together a whole program that's not just about the technology, but it's also, we think, the business transformation that needs to happen for an established company or for a startup to learn from what Salesforce has done. Right? We've packaged that as part of our program. And whether it's sales, marketing, pricing, etc., we bring that to the table. And in fact, one of my colleagues, Shekhar, he runs my team in India, and that's what we're here to do as well. We're doing it worldwide, which we see tremendous opportunity to make that transformation, enable it to happen, not only for the end customer, but also for our partners.
Great. Questions for Avanish?
Yeah, Avanish, we haven't really heard, a lot of big mobile-first, SaaS enterprise products yet. So, do you foresee, the flavor of that kind of product and, where the big success story is going to come from?
Sure. So the answer is you may not have heard of them, but they're already out there. I'll give an example first. There's a partner of ours called ServiceMax. ServiceMax is a company of about 200 people, completely built on our platform. And what they do is they enable field service. So think about people who support the GEs and the Pitney Bowes. They have a lot of equipment in hospitals and locations. And how do you provide the person who's going to support that, is going to fix that if there's an incident? They provide them the full solution on an iPad. But who is the customer? What devices do they have? What version of software they're running? What parts may they need, etc. And then from the iPad, you can actually send the request, define the work order, give them the location with a map and so on, and then actually order parts as necessary. So that's an example of a company that has pretty much built its whole business around a mobile offering. Okay? There's a whole bunch of others, but the idea is more and more when companies start looking at what the problems are out there. You heard the doctor talk earlier about hospitals. Right? Hospitals, by definition, a lot of the people are moving around. Right? How do you think about apps that solve those problems? So we actually have partners who do that as well. So we think that that's a big part of where the next generation of leaders is going to come from.
Hi. As an early stage startup building technology or building an enterprise software for the accounting industry, for example, what might be the right time to come have a conversation with Salesforce about potentially partnering up? Would you recommend having some revenues in place, having a product that's been deployed? Any advice?
As soon as possible. And so we're not a VC, right? We're not looking for proof points and have you already, gotten tons of customers and so on. We want to help you get started, right? For us, it's about engaging with technology conversation, engaging with what is your market opportunity, who are you going after. The last couple of days, I've been in a number of conversations like that right over here, and that's exactly the sooner the better.
Yeah.
ERP is ERP. So we sign an NDA up front. It's a mutual non-disclosure, and whatever IP you build is contractually and in practice yours, right? So we are providing think about us as providing the underlying infrastructure, but the IP is yours, for sure.
Okay, I have a last question for you.
Sure.
Segue into our next presenter, so I'm going to set you up for this. So Salesforce, and when Mark started the company,